Hello and welcome to the Rink Masters podcast. My name is Noah Druger and I'll be your host today. This episode, we have a great interview with Rhett Rhinehart coming up, so stay tuned for that. Just before that, though, we have a bit of news to share with you. Related to the World Juniors, Kirby Doc plays for Chicago Blackhawks in the NHL. He suffered a wrist injury. He has received surgery for that now, and he will be out for 4 to 5 months, essentially ruling him out for the NHL season. His Chicago Blackhawks teammate will not report, Jonathan Taves will not report to camp due to an illness. This is certainly a blow for the Blackhawks organization as he is their captain. He's a great player still, so that's definitely going to sting. In other NHL news, Mike Hoffman has signed a professional tryout with the St. Louis Blues, enabling him to practice with them during training camp. Canadian teams appear to have a go-ahead to play in their home arenas for the 2021 NHL season, which is great as they will now most likely not have to play in the United States. And World Juniors news, obviously goaltending has been a major headline in this year's World Junior Championship. Canadian goaltender Devin Levi has solidified his position in the crease, turning himself into the undisputable starter for Team Canada. And the Austrian goalie, Reinhardt, he put up a 61 save performance versus Sweden. Led him 4 goals, so that was good for a .930 save percentage. That is just incredible. His team was on the back foot the whole time. I believe Austria only mustered 6 shots, so good on him for braving the storm, as it were. All right, that's our news, so let's head over to the interview with Saskatoon Blades defender, Rhett Rhinehart.
All right, so welcome, Rhett, to the Rink Masters podcast.
Thank you.
All right, so for those of our listeners that don't know, Rhett was drafted 13th overall in the first round by the Prince Albert Raiders in 2016. Throughout his Western Hockey League career, Rhett has made stops in Prince Albert, Prince George, and Saskatoon, where he's currently playing. So since the World Juniors is on right now, your old teammate Taylor Gauthier is repping the WHL there. Have you been keeping tabs, and what can you tell us about your former teammate?
I haven't talked to Goat in a little while. I'd say we chat like every so often, but it's been a little while since we've talked. Me and Goat were good buddies when we played in Prince George together. You know, same age, both from Alberta, so we played together for Team Alberta. Always playing against each other when we were younger. Usually it was rivals, but we were teammates for a good almost 2 seasons. Me and Goat get along pretty well.
That's pretty awesome. And so I know you were highly touted heading into the Bantam draft. Leading up to the draft, did you talk to many teams, and did you know that Prince Albert was looking to pick you at 13?
I had a good idea it was going to be PA. I had talked to quite a few teams at that point, but PA definitely shown the most interest and basically told me if I was available at that pick that they were going to take me, and that's what ended up happening.
That's good. And so obviously you get drafted, and then you head into your first training camp with Prince Albert. You know, that's kind of like a rite of passage for every Western Hockey League player. So how was your experience at Prince Albert Raiders training camp?
It was definitely different. Going from playing bantam hockey to playing against guys that were 20 years old. You know, well, me being 19 now, almost kind of like the opposite feeling of that. But definitely, it was pretty surreal. Always being a goal of mine when I was younger to be drafted in the Western League and obviously playing it too. And it was kind of the first step for me after the draft. It was a pretty cool feeling.
And so, you know, you mentioned playing with guys that are like 20, guys that are older and bigger than you. Did any of the veterans in that team really give you any pointers and or the coaching staff to work on heading into your next season?
You know, it was definitely a welcoming atmosphere when I first came into PA. You know, a lot of the vets were nice to me. It was pretty cool at the time. Brendan Gooley, so I guess former Raider and Cougar.
Yeah.
I ended up being D partners with him in main camp for a little bit and just kind of following him, you know, being a second round pick of Anaheim, I believe it was, or Buffalo.
Buffalo, yeah.
And, just, having him there kind of helped me guide through lots of things. Definitely helped, but, it was definitely a welcoming atmosphere.
That's definitely really cool. So my buddy Jordan, he's a diehard Prince Albert Raiders fan. So he wanted me to ask you, what was your favorite memory playing with the Prince Albert Raiders?
I think one of my favorite memories with when being in PA was so at that time I went and represented Canada for the World Under 17s,
Yeah.
which is pretty sweet. And when I came back, we had like a special jersey night with like retro Raider jerseys. And before the game, I got to go to center ice and stuff, and they PA made me like a framed photo, a couple pictures of me with Hockey Canada, and like got it engraved and stuff. And there's a little presentation at the start, which was pretty sweet.
Yeah, no, that's definitely. I'm just trying to picture how I would feel being in that position, but just to be like honored by that, like that way by the team. How did that feel? Just being at center
Uh,
stage.
it was pretty surreal. I mean, I think I might have still only been 15 years old at the time because I got a late birthday.
Yeah,
But having all the fans cheer you on, teammates, everything, couldn't ask for anything else.
that's awesome. And so, you got a couple years into your Western Hockey career, you got traded to Prince George. Did you know that that was going to happen? And how did that transition go?
So it was halfway through my 16-year-old year
Oh, right,
when
yeah,
things kind of weren't working out in PA. Just don't really want to get into it, but
yeah.
there was some stuff happening. And at that point, they had sent me home and basically said they were going to trade me somewhere. And PG was GM at the time, Todd Harkins. He was another guy when I was first like entering the Western League draft who was super interested in me and stuff. So
Mhm.
Todd was always interested in me, and once he saw that I was kind of up there, like on the market, he jumped on the opportunity, and Todd welcomed me in there, and it was different off the start for sure. I mean, haven't really experienced that trade thing at that time, still being pretty
Mhm.
young. I think it was tough to begin with, but once you kind of get to know the guys, and it's no different than PA or Saskatoon now. It's the same goal, like same league. It's just a different group of guys, and they welcome you in.
That's really good. And how was that transition? Like to Prince Albert to Prince George.
A little different, PA being 3.5 hours from home, and then having Prince George a little over 9. It was a little different,
Yeah.
but I think the group of guys in Prince George is what really made it home for me. I mean, they all welcomed me in. I knew lots of the guys. Actually, there was two other guys that I got traded at the same time. There were 16-year-olds, Chel Chamus and Ethan Brown, which played with
Mhm.
them in the past, played against them. So having them guys kind of being newcomers as well, just kind of made it a group of guys to hang out with off the bat, just kind of transition with together.
That's definitely a really good feeling knowing that there's guys, they're kind of going through the same boat as you to make that
Mm-hmm.
transition a lot easier. So it's a little different for you now. You're coming into the Western Hockey League as a veteran. You're going to be at 19. What are your goals heading into camp this year? Of course, depending on COVID and how that
Mm-hmm.
plays out.
This being my 4th season now in the Western League, my goal is to come in and be #1 guy in Saskatoon. Having almost 200 games played in the league now, just being more of a veteran presence. I think that I'm ready to take on more responsibility and a bigger role, and I'm excited to take on that.
That's really good. And so you didn't get drafted this last October. It was your first year of eligibility. So what do you think you need to work on this season to really get on the scouts' radar for next summer?
I think my biggest thing is consistency. I believe I have most of the tools that are required for the next level, but it's just the fact of putting a little extra effort. Um, I was inconsistent last year. I had a pretty good 17-year-old year, which I think set me up well going into my 18-year-old season, my draft year. But uh, I don't think I took full advantage of my draft year last year. I took a few things
Mhm.
for granted, and definitely affect me in the long run.
Yeah, well, no, you definitely have the tools. You're a big bodied defenseman, smooth skater, right shot. So I'm definitely excited to see what you can do this year. So in the off season, what does your routine look like in preparation for the upcoming season?
Well, it's been definitely a different one. I think this is the longest I've been home in probably 6 years for sure. Well, coming home kind of mid-March, just kind of trying to get used to things because that's when everything was closed down for the most part.
Mhm.
I can't remember when everything started to open up, but the first thing was like the gyms. I was able to get in the gym with some buddies and stuff at a training facility in Lloyd here. And then the ice finally opened up, which was the longest I think I've been on the ice in a long time. Was 3-4 months at least. But
Wow.
it's definitely been an odd one for training. I mean, it kind of seems like it's been on and off as we've been getting different, you hear a lot of different things around the league about season starting up here, and you just kind of expect it, and then
Yeah.
it gets pushed back again. And it's like, oh, do I keep training? Do I take a little bit of time off? It's definitely been a different one, but I'm doing my best to maintain the best shape I can.
Well, yeah, that's really good. So I kind of want to look back to, I should probably ask this near the beginning, but growing up, who played the biggest role in your life, both as a player and as a young man?
I'd say my dad. My dad was a hockey player. He played junior A with a few teams. Then he played in the East Coast as well when he was 19 years old,
Okay.
ECHL. But um, definitely him. He's always been my biggest supporter. Taught me most of the stuff I know to this day. Always the one that's pushed me the hardest. In PG, I find it crazy still. In almost the 2 years I was there, I want to say he missed less than 5 home games.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, he's definitely my biggest supporter when it comes to watching me play hockey and just pushing me through everything. So I have to go with my dad.
Oh, that's really awesome. And so for those listening, how would you describe your game?
I like to describe my game as a big two-way defenseman. I believe that my defensive game has grown a lot as of late. I'm working on my foot speed and stuff when it comes to working on the smaller guys in the corners.
Yeah.
I believe I have trying to think of the word here, an above average skill set for my guy my size, being almost 6'4", 215 pounds. I think I do pretty well when it comes to that stuff. So I just say a two-way defenseman that can play in all aspects.
No, for sure. And if we're being a big guy, like, yeah, you said you're almost 6'4", 215 pounds. What type of advantage does that give you on the back end in game?
Oh, I think I just can add a little bit of intimidation factor, especially being an older guy now. I know when I was 16, I was fortunate to be like 6'3", 190 pounds. I mean, a lot of those kids won't get that
No.
satisfaction that I had. So, I think be able to intimidate kids a little more when they're coming into the league a little smaller or whatever. But I just think with my size and being able to skate pretty well, I think that's my biggest advantage.
Yeah. And, up until now, I guess, being in the Western Hockey League, yeah, you've been here 4 years. What has been your biggest takeaway from the Western Hockey League in your time?
I think it just kind of shows like the jumps kind of from when you go from midget hockey to the Western League,
Yeah.
and then you go from Western League to pro. Like you see guys that not going to say any names or anything, but guys that'll put up 80, 90 points in the Western League, then end up in the East Coast and barely play. It's
Right.
just kind of you know, it's not always the guys that are getting points when it comes to Western League. It's the guys that can do everything else right. Those are the guys that end up in the American League and then get the opportunity in the NHL. But I think it's just the jumps between the different levels that I've noticed the most.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree that, I think a lot of people underestimate the jump in skill. Like, I think, you see some guys in Bantam. I've seen this happen here in Prince George. They light up the score, and then they get
Yep.
into those Western Hockey League situations, or even, I guess, BCHL, and they can't quite translate that. So you definitely hit the nail on the head. Those two-way guys that do all the right things, that have the right attitude, are definitely the ones that can successfully make that jump.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, yeah, thanks for coming on. This was an awesome interview, and definitely would like to have you on in the future.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having me, man.
All right. Have a great day.
You too. See you later.
Yeah, bye.
Well, that was our interview with Rhett Rhinehart. We hoped you enjoyed it. Make sure to tune in again next week for our episode. I'm sure it's going to be a great one. So tune in. Thanks again for listening. We hope you have a great night. Bye for now.